All right. So in this video, we'll be looking at the dragon variation in the Sicilian defense. So the position on the board, this is the standard dragon position that, like, so when the last move that black played is G6. So when black plays G6 move, this becomes the dragon variation. And so dragon is one of the most fearsome variations that black can play. And many players, when they are playing white against this variation, have certain fear that this is a very sharp opening. So they're not sure how to handle this opening and how to play as white. So during the course, I'm going to be covering in detail on how to tame the dragon. Right? So I like playing the dragon variation, especially as white, because a lot of the dragon variations, like the complications that arise and the attack that black does is because of this bishop on f8, right? So this bishop comes to g7, and then this is called the dragon, right? So it starts breathing fire on the h8 even diagonal. So that's like the root of black's attack against white. And if you can tame this bishop, right? So if you can tame this dragon, then black doesn't really have a lot of attack against white's position. And once this bishop is tamed, then the dark square weaknesses in black's position, like h6, f6. In some occasions, the pawn moves from e7, and then d6 also becomes weak. This full whole structure starts becoming weak, right? So I've been playing my own repertoire for about 15 years now, and quite successfully. So yeah, I like playing this position as white, and in this video, I just want to show a quick preview of the kind of variations we'll be playing against the dragon. Right. So if you're white and you want to know how to face a dragon, I highly recommend you to watch this video and also to join the course. All right. So without further delay, let us start looking at how to continue as white. So my preferred way of playing is bishop e3. So bishop e3, there is a nice little trap here, right? So instead of bishop e3, white can also play f3 and then plays bishop to e3. But bishop e3 has like a small trap. The trap is that if black plays knight g4, and g4 is a very bad move because now white can make this bishop b5 check, right? And if bishop d7, then I can take queen into g4. And now the bishop on d7 is pinned, so he cannot take my queen. Right? So if he takes, then there is this check. And so black loses a piece here, right? And the other alternative he has is knight c6, and the same thing sort of happens here. I can take on c6, takes, bishop into c6 check, and I can now even get the exchange on e8. Knight g4 is a bad move. It looks tempting to play it, but that's like a trap. Usually, if black is well prepared, he doesn't fall for knight g4. A standard way to continue is bishop g7 and now f3. Black short castles and white plays queen d2. The idea is to long castle and then launch a pawn offensive on the king side against the black king. Black plays knight c6 and long castle. Right. So this is my recommended of handling the dragon variation. Instead of long castle, there is another popular variation, bishop c4. This is also another main line in dragon. And personally, I am not fond of this variation because white loses a lot of tempos with this bishop on c4, right? He plays it to c4, then he has to spend another move back to bishop to b3, and eventually that bishop gets exchanged for this knight on c6, right? So this knight on c6 gets exchanged for the bishop on c4. So yeah, I have never liked this variation, although I've played it myself. But I think long castle is a much more stronger move. So long castles, and here the main variation for black is d5, right? So this is a pawn sacrifice that black plays, justifying white not playing his bishop to c4. So that is one of the reasons black plays d5. And d5 is a variation that I'll be covering during the course. But there are a lot of sidelines that black can play instead of d5. So in this game, we'll be looking at one of those. So black wants to develop his bishop. If he plays bishop to d7, then we sort of enter the same line as you would with bishop c4, right? So let's say instead of long castle, white plays bishop c4, and play usually goes like bishop d7, then white long castles. Black plays rook c8, then he goes bishop b3, then he plays knight e5, king b1, knight c4, take, right? And this is sort of considered as one of the main positions in the dragon variation, right? And here, black's plan of playing bishop d7, knight e5, knight c4 is justified because black is spending an equal amount of moves with his c6 knight as white is spending moves with his f1 bishop. So the tempo is lost by the knight are compensated by the tempo is lost. Right. So this is a good plan for black if white develops his bishop to c4. But let's go back to our main variation with long castle. So let's say white does not develop his bishop to c4 and straight does long castle, right? So let's say long castle is here, and this is the main variation. If black continues bishop to d7 here and continues with that same plan, black is a lot of moves behind. The standard way for white to continue is king b1. And the idea of king b1 is that I want to prevent a check on d2. Or you must be asking, I don't see a check on d2, but let me explain. So let's say, see for black to launch an offensive, he has to connect his rooks, develop his queen, and bring his other rook to c8, right? So that's what black ideally wants to do. But for that, if black plays queen a5, then white has a neat tactic here. He can play knight d5. Actually, you can first take on c6, right? Bishop into c6, knight into knight d5. And now if he takes queen into d2, it's not a check. So let's say if the king was on c1, it would have been a check. And white would have been forced to take rook into d2 or take the queen on d2. But since the king is on b1, there is no check to the white king, and so white himself can interpose with a knight e7 check, king h8, and then take the queen on d2, and white gets a pawn here, right? So this is very inconvenient for black, and black loses a pawn here. So to prevent queen to a5, to prevent the black's queen from going to a5, this prophylactic move is a very neat trick that white often employs in the dragon variation. And let's say black plays rook c8, white plays h4, black plays knight e5, and here white just gives up a pawn with h5. Right? And if black plays knight c4, then I've taken bishop into c4, rook into c4. But as you can see, white has already got about 3 extra tempos here. So in the main variation, white's pawn was on h2, whereas now his pawn is already on h5, and it's white's turn to play. So I take on h6, g6, h into g6, and now I can play bishop h6, and black is going to get mated pretty soon. Right, so let's say if black continues with this plan, to queen c7, then I can just take, queen h6 check, king g8, and queen h checkmate. Right. So black will get mated pretty soon if white is able to open up the h file and exchange the bishop on g7. So as I said, this bishop on g7 is the root of attack against the white king, and if this bishop gets tamed, then black doesn't have a lot of juice in his position. All right, so let's go back. So the plan with bishop d7 is not very effective in, when white long castles. Right? If white is not developing the bishop to c4, then the plan with bishop d7, rook c8, knight e5, bishop d7, rook c8, knight e5, knight c4 is a substandard plan. So here, a much better plan than bishop d7 is taking knight d4, bishop d4, and bishop d6. Right? So the idea here is that I want to, I don't know, like black wants to start attack against white's position by playing queen a5, rook fc8, and then start creating threats against white king's position. So this requires a little precise play, right? So even though I've said that that taming the dragon will take out black's attacking potential, precise plays is required. Yeah. So let me just cover that. So the right move here again is king b1, and with king b1, so you will get to see this move often in Sicilian Dragon or in other Sicilian openings like Tame, Nashdorf, where the kings are castle on opposite side, right? So white's king is on the queen side, black's king is on king side, and so when kings castle opposite sides, then it's a race. It's a race to get the other king first. And in Sicilian openings, king b1 is a very often played move. It's always a good waiting move to see what black is doing, and it also protects all of the pawns on white's queen side. And the idea is similar, right? So if black plays queen a5, then I can play knight d5. It's the same thing. If we and now queen d2, white has an intermezzo with knight e7 check, and king h8, then I can get into d2, and white is a pawn. And let's say after knight d5, black goes back to d8, protecting the pawn on e7. Now white can fracture the pawn on f6, right? You can take knight f6, let's say it takes bishop into f6, bishop into f6, into f6. And you can see black's pawn structure has been damaged. Now I can even take the pawn on d6. So king b1 prevents queen a5, and so this slows the pace of black's attack against white, right? So black goes queen c7 first, and a very standard attack against the dragon, h4. So this is another typical standard attack against dragon. You want to play h4, h5, and try to open up this h5 by exchanging the pawn on g6, right? Play h4, h5, exchange on g6, open up the h file, and then you will have, and then white will have a stronger attack against the black. So h4, now black plays rook fc8, I play h5, and here black goes rook queen a5. Queen a5, h into g6, h into g6. Okay. And black is now threatening to take rook into c3, and then take on a2 with his bishop on b3. Right. So that is black's threat. And so to protect against that threat, white plays a3. Now you might have a question as to why we are not playing knight d5 here. So here, if I try to employ the same tactic, the difference here is that the rook is not on f8 anymore. And so, here black can take on d2. And knight into e7 check would be a mistake because now black can go into f8. And if I take a rook into d2, then king into e7, and white has lost a piece. So this knight d5 trick does not work once the f8 square is vacated for the queen, right? So knight d5 doesn't work. White has to go a3. And for black to continue the attack, he has to start pushing his pawn, right? b5, b4. But if he plays b5 right now, white can simply take knight into b5 and he gets a pawn. And if black exchanges the queens, then obviously it's like there is no attack without the queen. So Black prepares for b5 with rook a b8. So rook a b8, bishop d3, and black plays b5. And now if knight into b5, then black can play rook into b5, right? So that's not possible, obviously. So white playing knight into b5 is not in white's best interests. So how to continue here? How to, black is really coming fast on the queen side by playing b4, and then you will have very strong threats against the white king. So normal way here to continue would be something like g4, trying to play g5, or even play queen h2. But g4 is a bit slow here because, well, black is b4, ab4, queen into b4, and already black is threatening a checkmate on b2, and also taking white's bishop. So he protects both the threats by playing knight e2, protects the bishop, and protects the b2 mate with the bishop. But this is not effective. Now black plays queen a4, and white is soon gonna get mated on the queen side. Yes, queen a2 check, and if he plays b3, then there is bishop into b3. So white can get mated pretty quick if he is not allowed. If he's not able to find the right plan and the specific set of moves. So let's go back to the moment when black has played b5. So black has just played b5, and as I said, white really has to be very concrete here to continue the game. So to stop b4, white plays queen g5, and he's imposing this horizontal pin on the b pawn. Right. So if the b pawn moves, then black's queen on a5 is lost. So this horizontal pin on the fifth rank is a very neat trick, I would say. And let's see. So here black plays queen c7. The idea being that now I'm removing the pin, and if black takes on sorry, if white takes on b5, then black plays queen to b7 and threatening a6, but with some serious threats against the white king. So he has open files against the white king, and well, white again looks like in a bit in trouble. But queen c7, white again is one move fast. He plays e5, and black plays d into e5, bishop into e5. Let's say, like if black doesn't play d into e5, if he moves the knight, let's say to d7 or something, I can take e into d6, e into d6, bishop into g7, king into g7, and now like black's king is pretty exposed. You can play queen h6 check. If king g8, then checkmate, right? And if king f6, then I guess I can play queen. I think knight e4 check is probably the best move. King e7, queen g5 check, and now black should get mate. So if he plays king f8, rook check check, king d7, queen h6 checkmate, right? So once the dragon gets tamed, white's attack really becomes fast. So as I said that if this bishop on g7 gets exchanged for this bishop on d4, then black has tough time defending his position. So he takes on e5, bishop into e5. Now queen c5, imposing a reverse pin on the queen on g5. So you cannot take bishop e8 because the queen on g5 is hanging. White protects the queen on g5 with f4. Black has to play rook b7, protect his rook, like his exchange on b8. And now white goes for the blow. Bishop into g6 and f into g6, then white plays queen into g6. And what white is threatening here is really the move rook h7. So let's say white gets an extra move, white would play rook h7. And if not into h7, then queen into g7 checkmate. Right. So this is white's threat, and to stop that threat, black plays bishop f7. Right? bishop f7. And now an even more brilliant move, rook h8 check. The bishop cannot take the rook, so king into h8, looking at f7. And now white is threatening a killer blow on h1. So white is threatening rook h1 checkmate, and it's really hard to counter that threat. Black plays rook g8, rook h1 check, he plays knight h7. And now there are like 100 different ways white can continue here. The simplest is just to play queen g6, or he plays queen h5, and black reside here. Cannot stop queen h7 checkmate. All right, so as you can see, white had to play a lot of specific moves. There were a lot of ideas that white had to execute, and but you can see once white is able to again counter this bishop on g7 and stop black's attack on queen side. White has a very strong attack on the queen side. So let's just look from the top. I will go back to our original position on after bishop e6. So let's look from the top. So long castles, black plays knight into g4, bishop into g4, bishop e6, king b1, stopping queen to a5, queen c7, and start with h4. So this is a very important plan. So always remember that white has to play h4, h5 in the fight. Okay. c8, h5, queen a5, h into g6. So here instead of queen a5, there is another variation that black can play. He can take the pawn on h5 and claim that he is a pawn up. But again, like once this g7 bishop gets taken out of the game, white will have a strong attack. So bishop into g7, black plays knight into g7. Don't worry, king into g7 will ultimately transpose to what we saw in the game. White will play g4, knight f6, queen f6 check, king g8. And this transposes to knight into g7 variation. Right? So let me just go back to knight into g7, queen h6, knight h5, g4, knight f6. So that same position came, albeit with a different order. And now, if white plays g5, right? So let's say white plays g5, then black has knight h5 defense, right? And we don't see any mating attack here. But white first plays e5, right? So he plays e5. I'm attacking the knight. If the knight moves to d7, then I'm just checkmating black's king, right? So knight cannot move. He can move to h5. He has to take on e5. And now white plays g5. The idea being now black plays knight h5. I take rook into h5, g into h5. And because white had played e4, e5 like 3 moves ago, he can now play bishop d3. And now white is threatening a very killer blow of queen into h7 check, king f8, and queen h8 check. So this is white's idea after bishop d3, and black doesn't have a lot of options here except to play e4. White takes knight into e4. The idea is that if white takes bishop into e4, then black plays queen e5, and now is protecting the h8 square. Right? It's protecting the mate on h8. After queen into h7 check, black can play king f8, and there is no mate. Queen h6 back, then I play queen g7, and black is on exchange. Let's go back. So after e4, knight into e4 is a better move. And the reason here is that if black plays queen e5, then I go knight f6 check. If g into f6, then I play, sorry, queen into f6, then g into f6. And now the mate on g7 is tough to defend for black. So queen g7 is a mate, and if he plays queen g3 check, if he just plays queen g3, then there are a few ways to go, but the most direct is bishop into g, bishop h7 check, king h8, bishop g6, king g8, and queen g7. So white would mate black in this fashion. If he plays queen g3, right? Check, king h8, and bishop g6, discovered check, and by giving the discord check, simultaneously I'm protecting and I'm removing the defense of the g7 square by the black queen. Right? So this is going to obstruct the g7 square. All right. So queen e5 doesn't work here. Queen e5, we saw that f6 check is winning. So black plays queen f4. And after queen f4, white gives the same thing, knight f6 check into f6. And black is saying, okay, g into f6 is not possible because the queen is pinned, right? So the pawn is pinned, I'll eat the queen. White has a different kind of mate here. It takes bishop into h7 check, only move king h8, and now bishop f5 check. What white is doing here is that now he's removing the defense of the f6 pawn from the black queen. The black queen is not defending f6 anymore. King g8, king h7 check, king f8, queen h8 check, king e7, g into f6 checkmate. Okay. So black would get checkmated in this fashion if he takes the pawn on h5. So let's go at that version from the top again. Go back to the moment when black took the pawn on h5, right? So let's say on h5, black takes knight into h5, take the bishop on g7, knight into g7, queen h6, knight h5, g4. See, all of these moves are forced. So they're pretty logical. And then here e5 is the kicker. So let me give it 2 exclamation marks. e5, fantastic move. And g into e5, g5, and h5. Look into h5, then another good move. Bishop d3, and yeah, and the rest you guys can work it out, right? Bishop d3, and then black is gonna be mated. All right, guys. So I think this video now pretty exhaustively covers the variation with knight d4, bishop d4, bishop d6. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed and liked it also. If you want to study the whole dragon variation, like black has a few other choices, the main variation is d5. 9 dot 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 d5 is the main variation. So let me go back to that position. Right, so after long castle, 9 long castle, d5 is the main variation. So if you want to know how white should handle this variation, um, try to join the course, and I'll be covering this variation and analysis during the course. All right, if you have any insightful comments, questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section, and I will try to answer them as soon as I can. All right, thank you for staying with me. Hope you enjoyed it.